knowing how to regulate your nervous system isn't enough when you're trying to heal the fearful avoidant attachment style, because there's a whole psychological system to fear. And you need to understand the fear brain and what it actually needs to heal, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense what it needs to heal. I am Pauline, and I am so happy you are here. The fear brain is such an important and intriguing concept when it comes to healing. It is not something that exists. I started calling it the fear brain once I realized that there was a part of my brain that was trying to protect me. It wasn't interested in me being happy. I thought when I was healing, everything in me was pointing towards being happy, getting out of this state of being triggered all the time and feeling so horrible, and working towards being happy. I thought I was working towards being happy, but no. I realized that there was a part of my brain that was just not interested in me being happy. It was only interested in keeping me safe. And those are two very different goals, very different targets. And so the fear brain is that part of your brain that tries to protect you no matter what you feel like, what you think of it and what you want. Your fear brain just wants you to be safe. And if that means that you have to feel stressed, have to feel anxious, have to feel bad in order to be safe, in order to keep paying attention, to not let go and not see something coming, then that's what it will use. And so the fear brain is a really psychological system. It has its own logic, and the logic is not very logical to our rational brain. And so it's so important to understand the fear brain and what it needs, because it is counterintuitive. There are many paradoxes to it. It's fascinating and a beautiful system in a way, but now that you're healing, it doesn't serve you anymore. And so we need to know how to work with it and not against it, because as a fearful avoidant, you have a fear dominant brain, which means that fear reigns. It is the most important thing that your brain is trained on and is present in your brain. And so it has a lot of power right now. And so when you're trying to go against the fear brain, which inadvertently happens a lot in a lot of therapies and in a lot of coaching, very well intended, but when you go against it, you trigger mechanisms, you trigger its protection mechanisms. So in this video, I wanted to talk about what it needs, what your fear brain needs to heal. It really helps to see the fear brain as something that is not you. It's not who you are. It's just a system, a fear system, that is beautifully designed to try to help you stay safe when you don't have the coping skills when you were younger. But now, when we need to heal, when we want to heal, there are certain things your fear brain needs in order to let go. The first is know what being healed looks like and feels like. And this is so important, and I feel like this gets missed so often in therapy, and in coaching, which I am all for, by the way. Don't get me wrong, but what you're essentially doing, the more trauma you have, the more that has an impact on how you think, how you are, how you speak, how you behave. And so when you're healing, what you're essentially doing is going to a completely new place, almost a new identity. And this is what a lot of people run up against in this healing journey, that when they start to release, that feels very unnerving. When they start to heal, when they start to release the old pain and the old patterns, that feels very unnerving, because where are we going? What is it going to look like when we are healed? When your fear brain doesn't know that, it will freak out. It will absolutely freak out. And it probably won't let you get there. And this is the reason that a lot of fearful avoidants keep healing and keep working at it really hard, but have such a hard time to really let go of those patterns, because you don't know what it looks like and what it feels like when those patterns aren't there anymore? What is going to replace them? And how do you know you're going to be safe? These are all the things that your fear brain is occupied with. It is just trying to keep you safe. And the more clear the picture is of what it is going to be like and what it is going to feel like when you have healed, the easier it is for your fear brain to say, okay, I guess that's as safe or maybe even safer. The safer we make it, the safer we can show it to be, the being healed state, the easier your fear brain is just gonna flip, because it wants you to be safe. It doesn't want you to struggle. It doesn't want you to hurt. It doesn't want you to feel bad all the time. It just wants you to be safe. And so when we have a very clear picture of what being healed looks like, and when we can really make clear that that is safer than where you are now, then your fear brain can let go. It's still doing its job, but it can let go, and that's all it wants. And so this is missing, I think, so often, partly because what being healed feels like and looks like for you when you're healing the fearful avoidant attachment style feels different than the other attachment styles and the secure attachment style. Because, for instance, if you start putting up boundaries, you will feel selfish for a while. And so you won't really navigate toward feeling selfish, right? That doesn't feel good. And so you shy away from that. And when you're healed, you won't have the highs and lows and the push and pull and the extremities mechanisms. You will get to a more neutral place, the art of neutrality. I have a video on that too. It's probably linked. And that will feel boring when you haven't healed yet, or when you're trying to heal, so you won't lean into that. And so it is very important to really know what it looks like and feels like to be healed, but also what it feels like and looks like on the way to being healed, so that you know that you're going in the right direction. Because otherwise you think, oh, this feels boring, this probably isn't right, and so you steer in the other direction. And as much respect I have for so many therapists and coaches, I genuinely do, and I really I am all for it, because it's so beautiful and important to have a healing relationship with a therapist that can help so much. But there are not a lot of therapists and coaches that have gone through the fearful avoidant attachment style and have healed it to the point where they don't get triggered all the time, where they feel calm, where there is neutrality. And so it becomes really hard for them to paint a very clear picture of what it looks like and feels like to be healed, a picture that your fear brain can understand. So that is the very first thing that your fear brain needs, because as long as the situation where you're in right now, even when it's not ideal at all, you're triggered all the time, you're overwhelmed all the time, you feel exhausted, you feel bad, you feel like you're like making a mistake is a life and death matter, all of that is not ideal, right? It doesn't feel good. But as long as that feels more familiar, it will feel more safe to your fear brain. And so what we want is we want to make the new reality, the new identity of being healed, more safe and more familiar. That is what your fear brain needs in order for you to really get to that place of being healed, and not just working on it for the sake of working on it. The second thing is that your fear brain needs you to not only release trauma, but also the negative associations around positive things and the positive associations around negative things. Releasing trauma really helps getting to the root of what is driving all these patterns and mechanisms and your thoughts and your behaviors and your beliefs. It really helps going back to specific memories. There's several modalities that do that, EMDR, EFT. There's help in that area. But what your fear brain needs also is to release the negative associations around the positive things. And what I mean by that is, I think we assume too easily that we want to feel positive things, like feeling happy, feeling good. But when there's negative associations around that, when you got scolded for that, when you were younger, or humiliated for that, what do you have to be so happy about? Then there's negative associations around the positive feelings. And so you will, your fear brain will make sure that you always feel just bad enough to not have that happen. Even when your parents are not even anywhere near, it's just a kind of installed mechanism. So releasing those negative associations with it, the fear of what will happen when you really are happy, and what people will say, will you get judged, will you get humiliated? Releasing those will allow you to feel happy so much more easily. And not just happy. I mean, there can be negative associations around feeling love and feeling loved by somebody, around being excited, around feeling calm and relaxed. There are probably negative associations around many of those, and that's not bad. We can just uninstall that and heal that. But that is what your fear brain needs, because otherwise you can heal a lot of the trauma, but when those associations are still in place, you will still get pulled back to feeling bad, and you're not quite sure why. The third thing your fear brain needs to heal, is it needs to feel like you got it, like you can handle it. And this is such an important one and a hard one, but it needs to feel that that you are the boss in a way. Your fear brain doesn't necessarily want to reign. It doesn't want to take control, because it's just trying to protect you. And when you feel like you've got this, you can handle it, you can handle all your feelings, which is the main thing, it will let go so much easier. But if you still have a hard time feeling your feelings, being scared of the future, feeling like you can't handle it, then your fear brain will protect you. So it will step in and try to protect you, try to keep you safe. And so what you want to do is let your fear brain know, or let it feel that you have got this. And you need a few things for that. You need to be able to feel your feelings, and you need to be able to allow yourself to be powerful. And there's a lot of negative associations around being powerful and feeling powerful. But when you feel powerful, you will have so much more capacity to say, I've got this, and you will feel less anxious. And that is just what your fear brain wants. It wants you to feel like you can handle it. So there's a road towards that. And that means healing negative associations around positive things, because being powerful and feeling powerful is also a positive thing. But those are three things it needs to actually heal that I feel just get missed so often. And then what might also be interesting is what it doesn't need. And that is, surprisingly, to be listened to and acknowledged. Because inner child work is very valuable. I'm not talking about inner child work not working, but if you give the fear brain just too much time, and you listen to it and you acknowledge it, like, oh, you're so afraid of this, you're so afraid of that, and this happens too in therapy sometimes, too much, I think, that it just gets listened to and acknowledged too much. You dig into the fear and what it feels, but that gives it too much power, and that kind of then feeds into the fear brain feeling like, oh, I still need to protect, I still need to be there, because apparently all of this is very important. And then what it also doesn't need is endless comforting. Comforting is important to a certain extent. But what is very important is that the fear brain needs to trust the source it comes from. So what I've experienced too in therapy is that my therapist tried to teach me how to comfort myself, but I had no authority with myself. I did not feel powerful at all. And so I tried to comfort my fear brain that was very much in charge, and it just didn't do anything, which made me feel even more powerless. And what I didn't know was that I first needed to normalize power and create authority within myself in order to be able to comfort my fear brain. Because otherwise, I think it kind of felt like I was a 2-year-old trying to say, oh, I will be fine. And my fear brain was kind of like the grown up because of how much authority it had. And then listening to a 2-year-old saying, oh, but we'll be fine. I can handle it. You know they can't. And I felt so powerless, and I had so little authority within myself that no matter how I comforted myself or my fear brain, it just said, I love you for trying, but I need to protect you because I don't feel like you can handle it. So the more powerful you become, the more authority you build within yourself, the more your fear brain can trust it, can trust the source. And all of a sudden then the comforting actually helps. And what can help in the meantime to kind of create a bridge is if you have a trusted source that really knows what you're going through, because that creates that authority, right? That creates that feeling of, I can trust this person because they actually know what it feels like and what it looks like. That can be, in the meantime, kind of like a substitute. But that is very important. And then also taking the fear too seriously. It's weird because the fear brain can shout, right? It can demand things of you because it wants to keep you safe. But actually, it doesn't want to be taken too seriously. The more seriously you take the fear, the more seriously you take the fear brain, the more it freaks out, because the more it thinks, oh, I am needed. I need to protect. I need to step in. I need to take charge. Because apparently the fear that we are feeling is very dangerous and is very important. And so I need to do everything I can to make this go away. And the less seriously you take the fear brain, the more it can relax. You take away its power, and they kind of want you to do that. So that is why humor is also a very important part, but humor in the right way. Not dismissive humor, but humor that just lets your fear brain know that it's okay, it's fine, we got this. So there's a lot to this, of course. I mean, this is one video. I have more videos on this. But knowing the fear brain and knowing what it needs will really help you. I am so curious whether this was valuable to you. Let me know in the comments below. Because the fear brain is so core and so important to the Fearful Avoidant Attachment Style. It's not called the Fearful Avoidant Attachment Style for nothing. And so what I just want for you is to get the exact help that you need. And whether that's a therapist that really understands this, or a coach, or you do it yourself and you really understand this, or you do Healed and Happy, the online program that I have. I just want you to get the right help in order for you to not get into a situation where you go against the fear brain, because the fear brain is just very strong. And that doesn't mean that it's dangerous or that it's going to be like that forever. But I know that that can be hard and it can be exhausting. So that's why I made this video. Please let me know. Please let me know in the comments below whether this was valuable for you, whether you recognized anything, whether you took anything out of this. Feel free to share it with your therapist as well, or your coach. And as always, I am so happy you are here, and I will see you in the next one.